I thought I had the perfect life. 3 successful restaurants, a pregnant wife, and a solid family. Then I came home early one night and discovered my wife wasn't where she claimed to be. What I found on her Facebook changed everything I believed about our marriage. My name is Vernon Clark. I'm 42 years old, and I used to think I had it all figured out. 3 successful fast food franchises in different parts of town, a beautiful wife, 2 kids, and a house in the suburbs that screamed American dream accomplished. I was that guy who'd wake up at 5 in the morning, hit the gym, check on my restaurants, and come home to what I thought was a loving family. Denise, my wife of 8 years, is 37 and 6 months pregnant with what I believed would be our second child together. She already had Kyle from her previous marriage. He's 19 now and attending community college. Our daughter Camila just turned 16 and has been giving us the typical teenage attitude lately. On the surface, we look like any other middle-class American family trying to make it work. The thing about being a business owner is that you develop instincts. You learn to read people, to notice when something's off with your employees, your customers, or your suppliers. Those same instincts started nagging at me about 3 months ago when Denise began acting differently. Nothing dramatic at first, just small changes in her routine, her mood, the way she quickly put her phone face down when I walked into the room. I told myself it was pregnancy hormones. Hell, I've been through this before with Camila. Pregnant women get moody, distant sometimes. They need space. But this felt different somehow. Denise had always been open with me, sharing her day, complaining about Kyle's messy room or Camila's attitude. Suddenly, she became secretive, evasive about where she'd been or who she'd talked to. The restaurant business taught me to trust my gut, and my gut was screaming that something wasn't right. But I'm not the type to go snooping around without cause. I believe in trust, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's probably why it took me so long to act on what my instincts were telling me. Last Tuesday night changed everything. I was supposed to be at the downtown location until 10, dealing with a staffing crisis. 2 of my best cooks had called in sick, and we were swamped. But I managed to sort things out earlier than expected, thanks to some quick thinking and a few phone calls to my other locations. Instead of staying late like I'd planned, I decided to surprise Denise with takeout from her favorite Italian place. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. That wasn't unusual. Denise often went to bed early these days, claiming the pregnancy made her exhausted. But as I fumbled with my keys at the front door, something felt wrong. The silence was too complete, too heavy. Usually, I could hear the TV or Camila's music coming from upstairs. I called out as I entered, but got no response. The living room was empty, kitchen clean. I climbed the stairs, expecting to find everyone asleep, but Camila's room was empty too. Her bed hadn't been slept in. That's when the first real wave of concern hit me. I stood in the empty hallway, my mind racing. Where the hell was everyone? I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. That wasn't like Denise. Even when she went out, she always let me know where she was going and when she'd be back. I walked back downstairs and did something I'd never done before in 8 years of marriage. I opened her laptop. The guilt hit me immediately, but something deeper was driving me forward. Call it intuition, call it paranoia, but I needed answers. The laptop was still logged into her Facebook account. The first thing I saw made my blood run cold. There, right at the top of her feed, were photos from what looked like a house party. People I didn't recognize, drinks everywhere, and right in the center of one photo was my pregnant wife, arms wrapped around some guy I'd never seen before. I scrolled through more pictures. Denise laughing, Denise dancing, Denise holding what looked suspiciously like a wine glass. My 6 months pregnant wife was at a party I knew nothing about, drinking alcohol and getting cozy with strangers. I clicked on the comments section. Her friend Jessica had written, "Girl, you were wild tonight. Darren couldn't keep his eyes off you." Darren. Who the hell was Darren? Another comment from someone named Monica. "I can't believe you jumped in the pool. Your husband's going to flip when he finds out." Pool? What pool? And why would I flip unless there was something to flip about? I kept scrolling, my hands shaking. There were videos too, short clips of the party, and in one of them, I could clearly see Denise stumbling slightly, laughing too loud, acting like a woman who'd had way too much to drink, while carrying my child. The front door opened just as I was taking screenshots of everything. I quickly closed the laptop and pretended to be reading a magazine. Denise walked in, and the sight of her made my stomach turn. Her hair was damp, her makeup smeared, and she was carrying her shoes. She looked like she'd been swimming, or doing God knows what else. Denise said, "Oh, Vernon, you're home early. I thought you'd be at the restaurant until 10. I stood up slowly, keeping my voice level. "Where were you?" She froze for just a second. Not long, but long enough for me to notice. Denise replied, "I was just out with some girlfriends. We went to dinner and then hung out for a bit." "Where?" I asked, my voice getting harder. "At Jessica's place," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Just a small get-together. Nothing special." I nodded, watching her lie to my face. Funny, because according to Facebook, it looked more like a party. A party where you were drinking and hanging all over some guy named Darren. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Denise snapped, "You went to my Facebook? Are you serious right now? What kind of husband spies on his wife? The kind whose pregnant wife goes to parties without telling him and lies about it afterward." I shot back. "The kind whose wife is drinking alcohol while carrying his child." She threw her hands up in exasperation. Denise said, "It was one glass of wine, Vernon. One. And Darren is just a friend. You're being completely paranoid." But I wasn't done. Not even close. I wasn't about to let Denise flip this around on me. 20 years of running businesses taught me that when someone's caught red-handed, they'll try anything to shift blame. I'd seen it with employees stealing from the register, suppliers overcharging for inferior products, and now with my own wife. "Don't even think about making me the bad guy here," I said, my voice firm and controlled. "You're 6 months pregnant, drinking at parties, and lying to my face about it." Denise crossed her arms defensively. "It was one glass of wine, Vernon. One. And I wasn't lying. I just didn't think you needed to know every detail of my night out." "Every detail?" I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. "You mean like who this Darren character is? Because from those photos, he seemed pretty comfortable putting his hands all over my pregnant wife." Her eyes flashed with anger, but I could see something else underneath, panic. Denise shot back, "Darren is just a friend. You're reading way too much into some harmless photos." "Harmless?" I stood up, towering over her. "My wife, carrying my child, getting drunk and cozy with another man at a party I knew nothing about. That's your definition of harmless." She tried to storm past me, but I stepped into her path. Not threatening, just blocking her escape route. "We're not done talking," I said firmly. Denise glared at me. "Move, Vernon. I'm tired, and I don't need this drama right now." "The only drama here is what you created," I replied, not budging an inch. "You want to act single? Fine. But don't expect me to sit back and pretend everything's normal while you disrespect our marriage and endanger our child." That hit home. For the first time since she'd walked in, Denise looked genuinely shaken. "I didn't endanger anything," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Drinking while pregnant isn't endangering our child." I asked, my voice getting louder. "Staying out until all hours doing God knows what with God knows who isn't putting our family at risk." She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, using the same tone I used with employees who'd crossed the line. "Tomorrow morning, we're going to the doctor. We're getting a full checkup for the baby, and we're having a very serious conversation about whether this child is actually mine." The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Denise's face went white. "Are you accusing me of cheating?" "I'm not accusing you of anything," I replied coldly. "I'm stating facts. My wife lied to me, went to a party, got drunk while pregnant, and was photographed getting intimate with another man. You figure out what that looks like." The silence that followed was deafening. Denise stared at me like I just slapped her, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. I'd built 3 successful restaurants by knowing when to be firm and when to compromise. This wasn't a compromise situation. "You've lost your mind," Denise finally said, her voice shaky. "This is insane, Vernon. I can't believe you'd even suggest such a thing." "What's insane is expecting me to ignore what I saw with my own eyes," I replied. "What's insane is thinking I'd just accept your lies and move on like nothing happened." She started pacing the kitchen, her hands running through her hair. Denise said, "Fine. You want to know about Darren? He's Monica's cousin. He was just being friendly. There's nothing going on between us." "Then why lie about him?" I asked. "Why not mention him when you told me about your quiet dinner with girlfriends?" She stopped pacing and spun around to face me. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this, she shouted. You're so jealous and controlling that I can't even talk to another man without you freaking out. That was rich, coming from someone who'd just been caught in multiple lies. Controlling? I laughed bitterly. Lady, I've given you more freedom than most husbands would. I don't check your phone, I don't question where you go, and I sure as hell don't follow you around. But apparently, that was a mistake. Kyle chose that moment to walk through the front door. At 19, he was old enough to understand that something serious was happening. He looked between his mother and me, then quietly started heading toward the stairs. Kyle, I called out. He stopped and turned around. I said, your mother was at a party last night. Did you know about it? Kyle glanced nervously at Denise, then back at me. Kyle answered, yeah. She mentioned she was going out with some friends. Did she mention drinking? Or this Darren guy she was hanging all over? Kyle's face went red. She didn't really give me details. Denise jumped in quickly. Kyle, go upstairs. This doesn't concern you. But I wasn't done. Actually, it does concern him. If his mother is making reckless decisions that could affect this family, he has a right to know. Kyle looked uncomfortable, but didn't move. I continued. Your mother was drinking alcohol while pregnant with your soon-to-be sibling. She was photographed getting intimate with another man. And she lied to me about all of it. What do you think about that? Kyle's jaw dropped. He looked at his mother with a mixture of disappointment and disbelief. Kyle said quietly, Mom, is that true? Denise's composure finally broke. It's not what it looks like, she screamed. Your stepfather is blowing everything out of proportion. But the damage was done. Even her own son was looking at her differently now. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Denise had spent the night in the guest room, and frankly, I was grateful for the space. It gave me time to think without her constant deflection and manipulation attempts. I found her in the kitchen making coffee, acting like nothing had happened. That was typical. Pretend the problem doesn't exist, and maybe it'll go away. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. We're going to Dr. Patterson's office today, I announced, pouring myself a cup of coffee. Denise looked up from her phone. For what? A full checkup for the baby, and we're requesting a paternity test. The coffee mug slipped from her hands, shattering on the kitchen floor. Coffee splashed everywhere, but she just stood there, staring at me like I'd announced the world was ending. You can't be serious, she whispered. Dead serious, I replied, not moving to help clean up the mess. After what I saw last night, I need to know if that child you're carrying is mine. Denise's face went through a series of emotions, shock, anger, then something that looked suspiciously like panic. Vernon, you're being ridiculous. Of course this baby is yours. How can you even suggest otherwise? I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. Easy. My wife lied to me about where she was, got drunk while pregnant, and was photographed getting intimate with another man. Call me crazy, but that raises some questions. She knelt down and started picking up the broken pieces, her hands shaking. It wasn't like that, she said, not looking at me. Darren and I are just friends. Nothing happened. Then you shouldn't have any problem with a DNA test. She stood up slowly, pieces of ceramic in her palm. This is going to destroy our marriage, Vernon. Is that what you want? I stared at her for a long moment. Our marriage was destroyed the moment you decided to lie to me and disrespect our family. The DNA test is just going to tell us whether we're raising my child or someone else's. Kyle appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas. He took in the scene, his mother on the floor with broken ceramic, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Kyle said carefully, Everything okay down here? Your stepfather wants me to take a DNA test, Denise said, her voice dripping with victimhood. He thinks I've been cheating on him. Kyle looked at me with confusion. Do you really think? I think your mother has been lying about where she goes and what she does, I said firmly. And when someone lies about everything else, you start questioning everything. Kyle ran his hand through his hair, clearly uncomfortable with being in the middle of this. Maybe you guys should talk to someone, he suggested. Like a counselor or something. We're past counseling, I replied. We're at the truth-telling stage now. Denise dumped the ceramic pieces in the trash and turned to face me, her jaw set. Fine, she said, her voice cold. If that's what it takes to prove to you that you're being paranoid, then fine. I'll take your damn test. But there was something in her eyes that told me she wasn't as confident as she was pretending to be. The ride to Dr. Patterson's office was silent as a tomb. Denise stared out the passenger window while I focused on the road, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I'd called ahead and explained the situation to Dr. Patterson's nurse. She'd been professional about it, scheduling us for a full prenatal exam plus the paternity testing. No judgment, just facts and procedures. That's what I needed right now, cold, clinical facts. As we sat in the waiting room, I watched other couples around us. Young families with their first babies, older couples who looked genuinely happy to be there together. I wondered if we'd ever looked that happy, or if it had all been an illusion. Denise finally broke the silence. This is humiliating, Vernon. Do you understand that? Having to prove to my own husband that I haven't been unfaithful. I kept my voice low, mindful of the other patients. What's humiliating is having a wife who lies about where she goes and what she does. What's humiliating is finding out through Facebook that my pregnant wife was drinking and hanging all over another man. I told you it wasn't like that. Then this test will prove it, won't it? She shifted in her seat, her hand unconsciously moving to her belly. For a moment, I felt a pang of something, regret, maybe, or sadness for what we'd lost. But then I remembered the photos, the lies, the complete disrespect, and the feeling passed. Dr. Patterson called us back himself. He was a man in his 60s who delivered half the babies in town, including Camila. He'd always been straight with us, never sugarcoating anything. Vernon, Denise, he said, shaking our hands. I understand you're here for a routine checkup and some additional testing. That's right, Doc, I replied. We need a paternity test. Dr. Patterson nodded professionally. I'll need to explain the process and the risks, minimal as they are. But first, let's take a look at how the baby's doing. As he prepared the ultrasound machine, I found myself holding my breath. Whatever was on that screen, whatever we discovered today, it was going to change everything. The baby appeared on the monitor, moving around, apparently healthy. Under different circumstances, this would have been a magical moment. Instead, it felt like evidence collection. Baby looks good, Dr. Patterson said. Heart rate is strong. Development appears normal. Now, about the paternity testing, we could do a non-invasive prenatal test using your wife's blood and a cheek swab from you, Vernon. Results take about a week. I looked at Denise. She was staring at the ultrasound screen, tears running down her cheeks. Do it, I said firmly. Dr. Patterson looked between us, his expression neutral but understanding. He'd probably seen this before. All right then, he said quietly. Let's get this sorted out. The next few days were hell. Denise moved back into our bedroom, but we barely spoke. She tried to act normal around Camila, but even our 16-year-old wasn't buying it. The tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a knife. Kyle had been staying at his friend's place more often, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. I didn't blame him. This wasn't his mess to deal with. But Camila wasn't so lucky. She lived here, and she was starting to ask questions. Dad, why are you and Mom acting so weird? She asked me Thursday evening while I was going through restaurant reports in my home office. I looked up at my daughter, seeing genuine concern in her eyes. Camila was smart, too smart to be fooled by whatever act Denise was putting on. Your mother and I are having some problems, I said carefully. Adult problems that we need to work through. Is it about the baby? She asked, sitting down across from my desk. That hit me right in the gut. Why would you ask that? Camila shrugged. I heard you guys arguing the other night. Something about a test. And Mom's been crying a lot when she thinks nobody's looking. I set down my pen and really looked at my daughter. She was growing up fast, too fast, maybe, but she deserves some version of the truth. I found out your mother lied to me about where she went last weekend. I said. She was at a party with people I didn't know, including a man named Darren. She was drinking alcohol while pregnant. Camila's eyes widened. Mom was drinking while pregnant. That's what the photos showed. What photos? I pulled out my phone and showed her some of the Facebook pictures I'd saved. Camila's face went through a series of expressions, confusion, disappointment, then anger. She's holding a wine glass, Camila said, pointing at the screen. And who's that guy with his arm around her? That's Darren. Someone your mother apparently knows well enough to get cozy with, but not well enough to mention to her family. Camila handed the phone back, her face hard. That's messed up, Dad. Really messed up. Yeah, it is. What are you going to do? I leaned back in my chair, feeling every one of my 42 years. We're waiting on some test results. Depending on what they show, your mother and I might be getting divorced. The word hung in the air between us. Camila had been through one divorce already when Kyle's father left. Now she might have to go through another one. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I said. I know this isn't fair to you. Camila stood up and walked around the desk, giving me a hug. It's not your fault, Dad, she said firmly. If Mom's lying and doing stupid stuff, that's on her, not you. Just then, Denise appeared in the doorway. She'd obviously heard at least part of our conversation, and her face was a mask of rage. Camila, go to your room, she said coldly. Your father and I need to talk. Camila looked at me, then at her mother, then back at me. I'm not a little kid anymore, Mom, she said defiantly. I know what's going on. Go to your room. Denise's voice was ice cold. Camila kissed my forehead and whispered, Don't let her bully you, Dad. Then she walked past her mother without another word. After Camila left, Denise stepped into my office and closed the door behind her. Her face was a storm of emotions, anger, hurt, and something that looked like desperation. How dare you drag our daughter into this? She hissed, keeping her voice low. She's 16 years old, Vernon. She doesn't need to know about our private business. I stood up slowly, using my full height to tower over her. Our private business? Lady, you made it public business the moment you posted those photos on Facebook. You made it family business when you decided to lie to everyone under this roof. I was protecting her from unnecessary drama. You were protecting yourself from accountability. I shot back. There's a difference. Denise started pacing my small office like a caged animal. You're poisoning her against me. Showing her those photos, telling her about things she doesn't understand. What doesn't she understand? That her mother lied? That her mother was drinking while pregnant? That her mother was getting intimate with another man? My voice was rising despite my efforts to keep it controlled. Because those are pretty straightforward concepts, Denise. She spun around to face me, tears streaming down her face. It wasn't intimate. How many times do I have to tell you that? Darren and I are just friends. Friends don't put their hands on married women the way he had his hands on you. You're reading way too much into innocent photos. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to one particular picture, Darren's hand on Denise's lower back, both of them laughing at some private joke while she leaned into him. Innocent. I held the phone up. This is how you interact with casual acquaintances? Denise glanced at the photo, and her face went pale. It's not. It was just what? Just friendly touching? Just innocent fun? Just a little harmless flirting with another man while you're carrying what's supposed to be my child? The silence that followed was deafening. Denise stared at the photo, then at me, then back at the photo. For the first time since this whole mess started, she seemed to be really seeing what I was seeing. Vernon, she said quietly, I know how this looks, but you have to believe me. Nothing happened between Darren and me. I don't have to believe anything, I replied, putting my phone away. That's what the DNA test is for. She flinched like I'd slapped her. The test results will show that you're wrong, that this baby is yours. And then what? Are you going to apologize for putting me through this humiliation? I studied her face carefully. If the test shows the baby is mine, then we'll talk about what comes next. But even if it is mine, that doesn't excuse the lying, the drinking, or the disrespect you've shown this family. So even if you're wrong, you're still going to punish me? I'm not punishing anyone, I said firmly. I'm protecting myself and my children from someone who's proven she can't be trusted. Denise's face crumpled, and she sank into the chair Camila had vacated. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now we all have to live with the consequences. My phone buzzed with a text message. Dr. Patterson's office. The test results were ready. Dr. Patterson's office felt like a courtroom as he opened the envelope containing our test results. Denise gripped the arms of her chair, so tight her knuckles were white. I sat perfectly still, preparing myself for whatever was coming. The paternity test shows, Dr. Patterson began, then paused to look at both of us, that Vernon is indeed the biological father. The relief that washed over me was immediate, but complicated. My child, that was good news. But it didn't erase everything else that had happened. Denise let out a sob of relief. See, I told you. I told you this baby was yours. I looked at her, feeling no satisfaction in being wrong about the paternity. Congratulations, Denise. You didn't cheat completely. just emotionally and physically with another man while carrying my child. Dr. Patterson cleared his throat uncomfortably. I'll give you two some privacy to discuss this. After he left, Denise turned to me with hope in her eyes. Vernon, this proves I didn't lie about the important thing. We can get past this now. We can work through it. I stood up slowly, processing everything. No, we can't. What do you mean? The baby is yours. Yeah, the baby is mine. But you still lied to me repeatedly. You still drank alcohol while pregnant with my child. You still got intimate with another man at a party you hid from me. And according to what I found on your laptop this morning, you've been texting with Darren every day since that party. Her face went pale. You went through my laptop again? I went through everything, Denise. I found your text messages with Darren talking about how unhappy you are in our marriage, how you wish you could be with someone who understands you. I found discussions about meeting up again, about keeping your relationship secret from your controlling husband. She started crying, but I wasn't moved by the tears anymore. Those messages don't mean what you think they mean, she protested. They mean exactly what I think they mean. You've been having an emotional affair with another man while pregnant with my child. The only reason it didn't become physical is because you got caught before it could go that far. I headed toward the door, then turned back to face her. Here's what's going to happen. I'm filing for divorce. You can stay in the house until the baby is born, but after that, we're selling it and dividing the assets. I'll pay child support and be a father to my child, but you and I are done. Vernon, please, she begged. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Some things can't be fixed, Denise. Trust is like a window. Once it's broken, it's never the same again. I walked out of that office knowing I'd made the right decision. The baby was mine, and I'd be the best father I could be. But Denise had made her choices, and now she'd have to live with the consequences. 6 months later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office, signing the final divorce papers. Denise had tried everything. Counseling proposals, promises to change, even involving my elderly parents in an attempt to guilt me into staying. But I'd stood firm. My father, God rest his soul, had pulled me aside during one of her appeals. Son, he'd said, a man who doesn't respect himself won't get respect from anyone else. You did the right thing. The restaurant business was thriving. Funny how much clearer your head gets when you're not constantly wondering what your wife is lying about. I'd thrown myself into work and being a father to Camila, who'd been my rock through the whole ordeal. Kyle had moved out after graduation, getting his own place, and starting a job at the local bank. He'd told me privately that he was proud of how I'd handled everything. You show me what it looks like to have standards, he'd said. Denise gave birth to a healthy baby boy, my son, Lucas. I was there for the delivery, not for her, but for him. The moment I held him, I knew I'd made the right choice fighting for my rights as his father. We'd worked out a custody arrangement that gave me significant time with Lucas while ensuring he had a relationship with his mother. Denise had been forced to find work since the divorce settlement included selling the house and splitting everything 50-50. Camila, now 17, had become fiercely protective of our new family dynamic. I'm proud of you, Dad, she'd told me after the divorce was finalized. You didn't let her walk all over you. The funniest part was running into Darren at the grocery store a few months after everything was settled. He tried to apologize, claiming he didn't know Denise was married when their friendship started. Save it, I told him. You want her? She's available now. But I should warn you, if she'll lie to one husband, she'll lie to the next one too. He'd walked away without another word. Today, I'm focusing on raising my children and building my business. I've learned that sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones. Sometimes walking away takes more strength than staying. I won't lie and say it's been easy. Divorce is hard. Co-parenting with someone you don't trust is challenging. And starting over at 43 isn't what I'd planned. But I sleep well at night, knowing I stood up for myself and my values. My name is Vernon Clark. I'm 43 years old, and I learned that self-respect isn't something you can compromise on. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired. But life goes on, and sometimes it goes on better than before.